Okay, so I've started the recording. Okay, and please allow me to share the slide. So for the ones who have gone through research talk just now, I will be repeating the front end of this slide because there are new audience for research program. Okay, so you might just want to, just get by it. Okay, so for research program, okay, so this sharing session will be particularly for the research program. Okay, and the agenda for today, basically the introduction to the postgraduate studies, the postgraduate office and so on. Okay, so and then why postgraduate studies? It will be similar. Okay, so for coursework and for research, it will be similar, except that I would explain slightly on PhD. Okay, it is slightly different. So and then we will introduce the postgraduate programs at the College of Engineering, particularly on research, how to apply, and also the contact details. Okay, so as the introduction, we are governed. Okay, so we are headed, the college is headed by a PNC, Penolong Naik Chancellor, who is Professor Civil Engineer, Dr. Haji Suhaimi Abdul Talib. Okay, so for postgraduate particularly, we are under the Dean of Academic and Internationalization, Prof. Engineer Dr. Muhammad Azmi Ayub. Okay, and particularly specifically for postgraduate, it is headed by me. Okay, so my name is Sheila Bella Yudam, and I am supported by the coordinators. Okay, so we have Dr. Fazlina, the coordinator for research. Okay, so I would re-highlight here that if anything to do with research program, it goes back to Dr. Fazlina. Okay, and just now, an hour ago, I have highlighted Dr. Hafiz. Okay, so who is the coordinator for coursework program. So for coursework, we only have it for masters. We do not have PhD by coursework. Okay, so hence we just stop at coursework. It is only for master's degree. Okay, and then we are supported by the administrative team. Okay, so for academic, it is headed by Encik Awangku Ashari. We have the AR for postgraduate, Encik Muhammad Asfar. Okay, and for research particularly, we have the EO, Puan Mardiana, and she's supported by the senior clerk and also clerk, okay, Puan Izrin and also Puan Adiba. Okay, so for coursework, we have Puan Fazni and Nur Imania. Okay, so practically from here, we could see that for research, it is, I oversee basically both coursework and research, but particularly if you have any procedural issue, then it goes back to the coordinator. Dr. Fazlina is from electrical engineering. Okay, so I'm from civil and Dr. Hafiz is from mechanical engineering. Okay, so we are supported by the administrative team on this right hand side. Okay, so by research. So just as the general introduction, prior to the restructuring of the college, so all faculties, so previously it was called faculty, so every faculty have their own program and it is run by the faculty. Okay, so faculty of civil, faculty of mechanical, so each one of us basically ran our program individually in isolation. But what happened after restructuring? It started more or less on 1st April, at the beginning of April. We have restructured and kind of combined the schools together under a College of Engineering. So hence, the postgraduate studies, it is under the postgraduate office, okay? And it is managed by one office. Okay, so whether you're from mechanical or civil, it goes through one office, right? So this is our team. So I did purposely highlight here because Dr. Fazlina is the postgraduate coordinator for research program. Okay, so for research, so the key person basically is Dr. Fazlina. And we are supported by the administrative team, as I've mentioned earlier. Okay, so AR for postgraduate will be Encik Asfar, and the EO for research will be Puan Mardiana. Okay, so a lot of procedural goes through the EO. And for supporting, basically senior clerk and clerk for research will be Puan Ezrin and also Puan Adiba. Okay, and we are also supported by our committee members. Okay, so under the Jawatankuasa Pengukuhan Paskasiswaza College, the representative at mechanical engineering will be Dr. Afzan. The rep at the chemical engineering will be Dr. Shafiq. The rep at civil engineering will be Dr. Siti Hamidah. And then we have the rep at electrical engineering will be Dr. Habibah. And we are supported by Dr. Rusdi and Dr. Putri Sarah for the training, promotion, and student development of the postgraduate students. Okay. This one I've mentioned this in my previous presentation actually on why the need to actually go for masters and also PhD. The points are more or less the same. Okay, so if you've gone through the coursework, then you have to bear with me. But if you are just join us, then this might be a good introduction or a good way of starting it. Okay, so the need to have master's or PhD degree. The list or the points here are not exhaustive. Okay, so there are many more points that we can think of, but more or less it comes to these several points that I personally think it is important. Okay, the reason why you actually might want to embark on a master's or a PhD, obviously, if you are looking to deepen your knowledge in a selected field. Okay, so for example, if you have done civil engineering, because when you are doing undergrad, you touch on everything. Okay, so that is how you actually get your bachelor's degree and you are a graduate engineer in civil engineering. But if you are moving forward towards specializing in geotechnical, for example, or structural, for example, you need a higher level of qualification. Okay, so you need a certain qualifications to say that you are an expert in geotechnical, for example. So hence, you might want to embark on a research based on such nature. Okay, so a specialized knowledge. Personal development, obviously, because as a human, I believe that we crave for achievement. We crave for a certain degree of movement in our life. Okay, so sometimes stopping yourself at bachelor, it will be just there. Okay, so giving yourself the opportunity to actually move forward, so it creates this vibrant feeling, you see. So it creates this it's exciting because the more we achieve, the more that we actually feel satisfied. So the satisfaction, the achievement that we actually we yearn for it basically. Okay, so similar like in a Maslow's hierarchy. Okay, so as a human, if no, it will be the same routine again and again and again. What differs? Okay, so sometimes we need such things. So personal development, improving your career prospect. Okay, so obviously this would actually engage also back with the specialization that you select. Okay, higher earning potential, I did mention there are two ways of looking at it. Okay, so either there are studies showing that if you are with a certain higher qualification, you get paid higher. Okay, there are studies saying that it is similar, but it is still, there are two sides of the coin. Career change opportunity. So this happens especially if you have done your undergraduate in civil, okay, but you are interested to actually look into electrical, for example, or chemical engineering, for example. So having that master's or having that PhD might kind of tweak your fundamental. Okay, so you might actually enhance or you might increase your career changes or career opportunity in different direction because you have that certain qualification to support that. Okay, I'm moving from civil, for example, to chemical because I've done a master's or PhD in that. Okay, so career change opportunity, networking opportunities. So if you actually embark in master research or PhD, you will look into a lot of different academicians. Okay, so particularly if you're talking about research, so there are avenues that you get in touch with other academicians because usually in master's research or PhD, we publish our paper. We look into papers from the other sectors, from the other academicians. So we have role model, we have idols basically that we see, okay, in academics, in academic study as such, who is the expert and so on. So that allows us to actually have a network opportunity. If you ask me personally, at the international level. Okay, so if you are in research, you are doing a lot of publication, a lot of, getting to know the study, who is actually the key person in the certain field. It creates that kind of networking opportunity, okay, at an international level. And if we are talking about research, it improves a lot of your skill, particularly on exploration. Okay, so the critical skills that you will gain is a lot. Okay, especially if you're talking about PhD, because you will need to critically think how to actually solve a certain issue that you have. Okay, so um, trust me, actually, when you have actually gone through a PhD journey, embrace it, gone through it, you will come out a different person. Okay, so you will feel that problems could be solved. Okay, I wouldn't say everything, but at least you will see there are potential, there are possibility, high possibility for problems to be solved, because you have actually gone through the journey of basically polishing your critical thinking too. That's very important. Sometimes we say our mind stop at certain age. No, it grows. Okay, so once you use your mind, once you use your brain critically, um you would see life in a more brighter manner. Okay, so that's from my personal experience. Okay, so this one I've just placed it for post coursework, but I think it similarly works for especially the finishing student, undergraduate, who intends to go on with masters. Okay, so I wouldn't say this to do with PhD, but to do with masters. Okay, so whether do you actually take on masters right after your bachelor, or do you actually, I mean, what are the reasons that you work and postpone? So there are pros on both sides. Okay, so for example, if you're going for masters after bachelor, you might have a leverage. Okay, so against other applicants without a masters, especially you're going for the same interview, so that will give you a leverage. Potential for earning more money with a master's degree. Okay, so a different, as I mentioned, there are two sides of the coin. Okay, and after a long break from university, it will be more difficult. For masters by research, I believe that uh, rarely that we get people embarking on masters by research after working. Usually they will come back for coursework. So maybe it does not work that well for masters by research. We have, but in a very small number. Okay, so usually the most of the students in masters by research are purely from the undergraduate. Okay, so if your goal is to do a PhD later, then masters by research is one of the avenue for you to actually step on. But I need to highlight that if you are a first class student, then there is a potential that you can actually skip the masters and go straight on your PhD on a fast track program. Okay, so I'll just talk this in the next slide. Okay, and for masters, if your financial situation permits, then please go ahead. Let me check. I think someone is, the mic is on. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, and then masters obviously to would furnish your undergraduate CGPA if you did not get a good one, and you embark right away. That will actually reduce the responsibility you have. Okay, especially from undergrad kepada masters. Okay, so you would reduce any work related problem because you are still fresh. Okay, the reason to work and postpone, there are various reasons that we can actually give ourselves to postpone. Especially a work experience could help us in guiding us which field are we interested. Okay, so sometimes at the undergraduate level, we are kind of like hazy sikit on which field that actually makes us apa tu interested or passionate of. So work experience would give you that opportunity to at least see which context, which perspective yang nampak menarik lah for you. Okay, so you can have your salary, you can actually rely on your saving when you start your master's later, and initial work experience. Okay, so that will give you a perk. Okay, so because once you have a work related experience, you can see the assimilation between the theory, the practice, and how it works together in a real situation, and that you can actually share in your master's class too. Okay, so with a work experience, it would give you a clearer picture basically. Okay, all right. So this is just a statement that I actually gathered from Malay Mail. Okay, so just saying that the undergraduates, okay, so the salary in 2020 it has seen a decline, basically 1,500 from 2005. However, for masters and PhD, it was observed that the salary remains the same lah. Okay, so with the postgraduate though. Okay, so the next thing basically is the introduction to the postgrad program research. Okay, if you look into the code here, all the codes are basically the same. Okay, so which means the procedure, the process, everything is the same. So for PhD, we have it at all the schools, except that the code ke depan ni je difference. Okay, so for civil EC, for mechanical EM, for electrical EE, and for chemical EH. So similarly for masters by research, okay, so the code will be 750 for all, except for the differentiation in terms of the school code ni. Okay, so master 750, PhD 950. So the current research enrollment actually. Okay, so the current research enrollment is higher than the coursework. Okay, so masters by research, we have currently 292 students and graduated in the previous sem around 19. And for PhD, we have around 406 across the college. Okay, so graduated around 16. So in total for research, we have around 698 at the college. So it's the largest number basically in UiTM. Okay. All right, so moving forward in terms of duration and mode of study, okay, so for masters by research, the time frame for full-time and part-time is the same now. Okay, so starting from March 2018 intake, the duration is the same. The minimum duration for masters is 1 year, meaning to say that you can complete your study in as short as 1 year. So when I say 1 year, what is the exact meaning of 1 year is basically from the date of physical registration. Okay, so you register yourself until you receive the Senate letter. 1 year. Okay, so actually 1 year, is it feasible ke tak? It is feasible if you have a very solid basis to your research. Maksudnya you might have done a very good final year project and extended a bit, it could be a master's by research. Okay, so if you have done such a very good job in your final year project and then the opportunity for you to actually complete it is very short, is very it looks positive. Okay, so as short as 1 year and it extend until 4 years. Okay, but the graduate on time is basically 2 years for masters by research. Okay, so usually graduate on time is whereby the student will be provided an award for graduate on time. So it is 2 years for masters by research. For PhD, on the other hand, minimum time frame, the shortest you can complete is 5 semesters. Okay, and the longest time will be 14 semesters. And the graduate on time for PhD is 4 years. Okay, so all this time frame that I'm talking about starts from physical registration until Senate letter, until you receive the Senate letter. Okay, so cuma what's the difference between full-time and part-time? Duration-wise, there is not much of difference. The only slight difference is basically in terms of the fees. Okay, so part-time basically the fees is slightly lower because they are not paying for any medical, and full-time is slightly higher, but it's not much. Okay, so it is just a little bit. And also in terms of the time frame for DRP basically. Okay, so part-time for masters, for example, the defense research proposal would take 6 months. Part-time is allowed until 1 year. But usually at the college, we try to make it similar so that the students are basically engaged with the study. Okay, so but all in all, it's not much of difference now. Previously, before 2018, yes. So there is difference between the duration of finishing between full-time and part-time. Okay, so for masters by research, okay, so the duration is basically minimum 1 to 4 years. Okay, the graduate on time will be 2 years. Okay, so usually GOT student is given like a certificate to say that the student is a graduate on time award, saying that the student have completed the study within 2 years. Okay, so from the date of registration to Senate approval. And for both coursework or for research, basically, you are allowed to actually defer your academic semester. Okay, so we call it TG, penangguhan semester. And for masters, is allowed maximum twice. Okay, and you are also allowed, if you have medical condition, then we call it special leave, cuti khas, twice throughout the duration of the study. Okay, and also there is another way that you can actually convert your masters to a PhD. If the supervisor thinks that your work is solid enough and it is worth a PhD, you can actually apply to convert your master's to a PhD. Okay, so within 12 months of your registration. So usually for conversion, once you apply it to us, so we will send the proposal to the external examiner and to the internal examiner. You will be called for a presentation, sort of like a presentation and defending your proposal of a PhD. Once the panels agree that your proposal is PhD worthy level, then it will be agreed upon. Okay, so we will bring it to the college meeting and you will pass it on to IPSIS. Okay, so there will be another meeting that would endorse that result. So once the result has been endorsed at that level, university level, then you would register as a PhD student. Okay, so it is but okay, if your application does not go through, okay, so it was not approved for a PhD, then you will go back to a master's. So you will need to complete your master's. Okay, but if let's say you're converted to a PhD and you are not able to complete the PhD, you cannot revert back to master's. Okay, so once you have registered as a PhD, then you need to complete your study as a PhD. Okay, all right, so that's a conversion. So if you have any further question from this, you can ask me later. Okay, the program structure is pretty straightforward. Okay, so for us, we have compulsory seminar, which is IGS. Okay, so it is it's like a research methodology seminar, um, more or less a week, but now it has been done online, okay, through recorded sessions, and also Thai Square, which is on entrepreneurship. So for PhD, oh sorry, for masters, there's only one, IGS. So for PhD is where you have entrepreneurship course as well. Okay, so it's only one compulsory seminar. This is writing, and your official result is from the Viva. Okay, so your DRP is basically usually 6 months from the registration for masters. You need to submit progress report every semester. The number of words that is expected for masters by research, 20 to 50,000. And there is one minimum publication requirement, which is index publication. Okay, so at least throughout your study, you need to have published one index publication.
Doctor, your speaker is on mute. Hello,
Teacher
doctor.
Sheila, we cannot hear you, Teacher Sheila. Right now, we cannot hear you. Still no sound. I don't think mute tau. I think macam ada connection problem kot. Sebab the symbol for mute tak keluar on your
think, okay. All right. Okay. Okay, all right. I'm very sorry for the disruption. So okay, I think we'll just continue. Luckily, I can just get back here. Okay, so everyone can hear me. I think should be fine. Good.
Okay, Dr. Sheila, clear.
All right.
Okay, doctor.
Okay. Okay, so let's continue kat sini. Alright, so for PhD, okay, so you're allowed to defer 4 times, and the reasons of deferring would not be anything medical. Okay, so anything about financial, family issue, work related, then is for deferment. So maximum of 4 times throughout the duration. For medical reasonings, will be cuti khas, special leave, maximum of twice per throughout your study. Okay, so the program structure for PhD slightly differs from a master's, where you would have 2 compulsory seminars. Okay, so one will be IGS seminar by IPSIS, one more will be entrepreneurship seminar by a MASMET. Okay, so and then you write through your thesis and then you go for Viva. So your official result will be from the Viva. Okay, so for PhD, defend research proposal, usually within 12 months of registration. Similarly, you will need to submit a progress report at the every end of the semester. The thesis wording ni 30,000 to 100,000. So please do not write to 100,000. It will be too much. Okay, so when you write a thesis, think also of the person who is going to examine the thesis. Okay, so too much might not mean quality, so you need to be careful with that lah. Okay, 30 to 100,000. And the minimum publication requirement will be 2 index publication. Okay, so Scopus, WAS, and so on. So the fee structure basically for PhD and for masters is as such. Okay, so for full-time, part-time, and international. So more or less for full-time, one semester will come to around 2,000, more or less. Okay, so 2,000 times 8, more or less for your PhD, it comes around more or less 16,000. Okay, so similar as well to part-time. So it's more or less 16,000 ish. Okay, so for international, it's slightly higher. Okay, so for masters by research, full-time is basically as such. Okay, so you get more or less 2,000 plus, and then you will times 4. Okay, so similar to the part-time and so on. Okay, so I will share this slide so that you can actually have an idea how the fee structure is. So for academic requirement, it is similar across the school. Okay, so with a CGPA of at least 2.75. But if you have lower than that, 2.5 and so on, so it is best to be complemented with your experience. Okay, and for PhD is basically you must have a master's degree. Okay, so in a relevant field of study. So if you are not going through a master's, then you might be from the bachelor degree but with a first class honors. Or another way of it is through conversion. So there are 2 ways that you can actually go on to a PhD program from a bachelor degree. One, either you have registered through masters by research and you convert it within the year of 1 year of registering your masters, or alternatively you apply for a PhD but through a fast track program. Okay, so 2 ways of jumping or not going through a master's, well, partially go through a master's and so on. Okay, so PhD. And for international, basically they would require IELTS and so on. So when I mentioned about PhD fast track program, okay, so the idea is basically from a PhD, from a bachelor degree right into a PhD program. So meaning to say that your offer letter given to you will be a PhD study. Okay, so what qualifies you to apply for this? Okay, so you need to have a bachelor's degree. Okay, so first class of at least 3.5 from UiTM in the related field of proposed study. So it doesn't matter. If your bachelor is basically in chemical engineering, But if you think there are certain areas of study that you want to go deeper, and probably it is in the School of Civil Engineering, you can do so. Okay, so it could be crossed as such, but the CGPA will be 3.5. Or if you are from other academic institution, okay, so of it can be in UiTM or extended through outside of UiTM. So the CGPA should be at least 3.75, 3.67. Okay, so that would be the basic requirement. So with that, you can actually make an application. So once you have applied, we will acquire for you to submit the proposal, and we will actually conduct an interview. Okay, so the interview will be conducted among three panels. Okay, so there will be from school, head of the school, as well as the head of postgraduate study. So once it has been conducted, and judging from the interview and from your proposal, it is eligible, so you have passed the interview, then we will click on the offer, and you'll be given the offer letter for a PhD. Okay, so that is from for fast track project program from bachelor's to a PhD. So for the research, okay, so the major milestones that you would expect to go through would be this. Okay, so you will not be having classes as coursework and so on. So the idea or the processes are basically similar across the school in college. Okay, so you will apply, you will register, and moving from that, very importantly in your research is where you need to appoint the right supervisor. Okay, so for research, this is very, very, very important. Okay, so I cannot emphasize this more, because a huge chunk of your study or huge chunk of your whatever that you're doing, it goes back to the supervisor. Okay, so the appointment of supervisor, main course supervisor. Okay, so once you have done that, you may go on to your defense research proposal. Okay, so DRP, if it's for masters, within 6 months. If it's for PhD, within a year. Okay, so once you have done that, you would next will be notice of thesis submission. So actually, the time frame from your DRP until your notice of submission is pretty long. Okay, so for a master's, it may take up to 1 year. For a PhD, we are talking about maybe 3 years that you're doing a lot on your own here. Okay, so 2.5 as such. Okay, so once you think that your thesis is almost ready, 90% ready to be submitted, then you can submit us this notice of submission, and we will conduct the examiner appointment. Okay, so for research, your result would depend on the examiners. Okay, so it does not come from any other written examination or what. So it comes from the examination report given by the examiners. For masters, usually we have 2 examiners. For PhD, we have 3 at this moment. Okay, so once the appointment of examiner has been done, your thesis will be submitted for waiver. Okay, and we will pass it on to the examiner. So, and then the examiner will do the marking, and they will submit back to us the report. So once all reports are there, we will conduct the viva. So this is the moment of truth lah. Basically, this is where your result would be deliberated, and you will be given the result. Okay, so the official result comes from the viva. So once you have gathered that, obviously there would be corrections to be made unless your thesis is perfect. Okay, so we have also category, and I think electrical have gone through that the thesis is perfect as it is. Okay, so if no, then there are corrections to be made. Go through it, and then once you're done with it, checking, and then send it. Okay, so for masters by research, your process from here to here should be at least 2 years. Okay, so 2 years to graduate on time. And for PhD, from here to here is 4 years. Okay, so from registration to Senate. Okay, so what I've mentioned earlier was we are basically trying to try to encourage, basically extend your FYP into a master's degree. Okay, so if you have done a very good job in your FYP, you should just extend it, enter into a master's degree. So I did show that you can complete it as short as 1 year if you have a very solid FYP project. So If you have done that, then you can actually just a little bit and you will be able to get the master's. Similarly, if for PhD, extend your master's thesis into a PhD. If you have done your master's project, master's dissertation, so if it's a very good master's and extending a little bit of the scope would reach a PhD, why not? Okay, so if you have done that, then I think it's good to actually have your master's thesis as the basis and towards a PhD. Okay. So these are some of the online Viva sessions that we have had. So this is only 4 here. So at this moment, after the establishment of the college, we had altogether 37 Vivas. Okay, so in a span of a couple of months. So almost every week that we are having Viva sessions, both for masters and also PhD. Okay, so in terms of application, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so for graduating students, and students who are on the convo list, I believe you all have been told about ePursuit, and there are quite many of you who have applied through ePursuit. Okay, so this will be the 50 ringgit will be it is not being required lah. Okay, but if but ePursuit, basically there is a deadline for it, and the deadline has passed. Okay, they have closed the ePursuit system. If you in future you intend to apply, then go through the IPSIS website. Okay, so look into the tab of admission and look into the local. So you will be able to easily find this. So every application is through online. So nothing is done through apa tu a written application or whatever. So it is through online. So you can apply through it. But there is an application fees of 50 ringgit. For international applicants, it is still on the IPSIS website. Okay, so you just need to go on to the international applicant. So this will be the email, or this will be the site. And for international, there is application fees of 150 ringgit. Okay, so ultimately for research, we heavily use on this email address. Okay, so whatever queries for current student or future students, we receive it through this email. Okay, so if there are any queries from your side, please send us an email through this address. Okay, and we check this email on a daily basis. So if there is anything, so please drop us an email or just get to us. Okay, so I think we can be easily reached as well. Okay, so I think with that, it's best for me to open the session for Q&A so that we can see what are the questions or queries from the audience. Okay, so let's open the floor for Q&A session. Let me see if there are anything from the chat. Okay, so far any question? We have 70, quite a lot. So if you have any question in relation to research procedure, program, or is it a wise idea to go for research or coursework, because we have done the talk on coursework almost 2 hours ago or an hour ago. So anything that you might want to ask? May I know what is the recurring fees? Recurring fees is basically the fees that recur every semester. So if you are the recurring fees is 1,500, so you have to for a master's, for example, 1,500 times with 4. So you would see that yourself every semester the fees will be around more or less 2,000 for local student. Okay, so in total for masters, it comes to around 6,000 for a master's by research in total fees. So for 4 years of study, for 2 years of study. So 4 semesters, 2 years, it will come to around 6,000. For PhD, which is 4 years of study, it will come to around 16,000. Okay. Do we need to take Thai program if we want to upgrade the master? to PhD? No. Dr. Fas, can you confirm on this? Because the one that we have done the conversion so far did not require to take the Thai program because they've gone through the DRP. So no. Is Hakimi no. So Nadia, saya nak tanya untuk PhD, sekiranya kita tiada hala tuju semasa buat research, adakah akan di-convert ke masters balik? This one yang fast track PhD. Tidak. Nadia, once you have given the offer letter for PhD, your study will be in PhD. Dia dah tak boleh reverse balik. Yes.
Dr. Sheila, may I interrupt?
Yes, sure.
Okay, referring to the guideline, ada possibility go back to masters.
Ada possibility
Yeah, if they cannot perform during the progress report presentation. So they can revert back to masters.
Untuk masters conversion ke untuk fast track?
Untuk fast track dalam guidelines tu kalau tak silap.
Guideline okay. So Nadia, so I think it's a good news lah. So if you can continue with the PhD, so it could be converted to a master's balik. But my advice, if you have started on a PhD, you finish on a PhD. So try your level best to do that lah. Okay. Alright, so Fadila, may I know usually when the interview for PhD fast track will be held? Okay, so from the current application that we see in the system, we have application from Convolis, we have application from the outside of UiTM, we have the application from graduating student. Okay, for graduating student, we will not conduct the interview until we are confirmed with the marks. Okay, so for the graduating student, we will hold on until we attain the examination result official. So once we get that, then if it's okay, if it's first class, then we will call them for interview. But for the one that have actually applied through Convo, who have actually graduated lah, basically dah ada senate letter, graduated, and also the one from the university, we will do it as soon. Okay, so before the semester, before the new coming of the semester. So I would foresee more or less within end of this month or early of September. Okay, so for the one who have applied for that. Okay, when is the intake for the last e-pursuit for the application that closed on 31st July? It will be the October intake this year. Okay, so for coursework, usually there is a time frame for registration. For postgraduate, there is a time for registration. If the semester starts in mid-October, then the registration usually will be more or less early October. So give yourself lebih kurang end of September or early October macam tu. Okay, okay, yes. How to conduct research during this pandemic? That one is a constraint on us and on the student as well. So cuma we have come across different phases of MCO. So we started with MCO yang memang tak boleh guna lab. So that was difficult lah on all of us. And then the next phase is basically we allow but the requirement to stay in college. So students are not happy with that. But now in phase 1, we allow students to enter lab. Cuma there shouldn't be any cross take. So I would say it is not easy. It is not easy. So that's why what we suggest to the student, try to do a lot on the desk study, and at the same time also try to look into publishing papers and so on. Okay, and for coursework, this is research. I think I would not comment on coursework. So coursework, usually what we aim for them to do is basically to look into desk-based research, such as systematic review and so on lah. Okay. Okay, side to get GOT, the deferment and medical leave is be counted or not for the semester duration? It will not be counted. So, okay, for Syed, so if you are in the second semester and you are taking TG, your next semester is still second semester. Okay, so your semester will not move. So it's like this semester is second semester, you ambil TG or ambil CK this semester, next semester you'll still be in the second semester. Okay, so it will not be counted. Okay, Nadia pula, biasanya kita akan apply dulu for PhD or do we need to find a supervisor first? Ideally, I would advise you to find a supervisor first so that you have a clear idea what is expected of the topic, you can identify the scope of study so that, well, at the same time also look into your passion. Okay, so what do you want to study? You might want to find a supervisor that relates to your subject matter. Okay, so get the supervisor, come up with a proper proposal. You are ready, then you apply for a PhD. So don't just jump in and then think about the topic later and so on. You will be wasting the time. So do the front end job. Okay, plan properly. Find a topic, find a supervisor, come up with a proposal. Then you are more comfortable in embarking on a PhD. Okay, Muhammad Is. Does it possible for the undergrad student to get any funds to pursue their master's degree, master's study? At this moment, unfortunately, no. So the latest one or the closest that we have known for postgraduate scholarship was given by endowment, the team endowment. So one of our student kat Civil tu got it. Okay, so the endowment scholarship tu. But in current time, I don't see any unless you can find from a private or outside organisation. Okay. Azrul, kalau saya nak convert ke PhD memang wajib DRP dalam 6 bulan juga ke? Atau boleh buat within 12 months? To convert from a master's to a PhD, well, actually, it is necessary for you to conduct a DRP within 6 months. But let's say you can conduct within a 6 month. Let's say you did it in the 7 months or so. It is not a criteria for to convert to. It is not one of the criteria. So the criteria to convert is basically you have completed it within the time frame of 12 months. The application reaches us within the 12 months. Okay, so it is not the criteria lah. So, but don't delay it too long. So on that. Okay, from Anati. What is the requirement for the research proposal in fast track interview? Okay, there is no proper guide, there is no proper, it's quite subjective. But for a research proposal, at least you need to have the fundamental, the basis problem statement, your objective is clear, your a little bit of literature review and your research methodology. So we would expect something of the first chapter of the first to third chapter of the common research proposal lah. Okay, cuma when you're talking about fast track interview ni, your study needs to be very solid. Okay, so it needs to convince the panel that it is a PhD worthy study. So that's very important. So for you to actually create that, you need to have a problem statement yang sangat jelas. You need to have a gap yang sangat jelas. So hence you need to also have a proper literature review done lah. Okay, so because you need to convince them that you are capable and the study is good enough for a PhD too. Okay, so I would advise you to have a supervisor in hand to guide you on that. Okay, so but if you're confident enough for you to actually come up with your own proposal, but I think it's a little bit difficult juga. I would actually advise you to get a supervisor because PhD proposal and a master's proposal differs. Okay, so there is a different level between both of it. So to convince the panel, you need to show that the difference too. Okay. All right. And also fast track interview, very important is you can answer. Okay, so you know the subject matter tu, you kena tahu. So it shows your maturity, benda tu. Okay, so interview not only looks at your proposal, but how you can convince the panel whether you're confident enough. Because sometimes people say that undergraduate ke PhD tu, students tak matured. Okay, you need to prove that. You need to defy that, and that is the thing that they will look for. Okay. Next, Haizul, sekiranya apply for full-time study, but in the end, my HRD office not approve for full-time study, boleh ke convert full-time ke part-time? Boleh. Okay, so that could be easily done. You just need to you need to apply. Okay, so there is a form to fill. Okay, so just change from full-time to part-time. So that could be easily done. So once you fill up the form, submit it to the postgraduate office. And at this moment, postgraduate office, we operate purely online. Okay, so you can easily reach us through the email that I've shared earlier. And okay, Nadia, what happened if admission interview tak berjaya or kita tak berjaya defend proposal kita? Do we need to find another topic or macam mana? Ya, pernah ada tak student yang dalam situasi ni? Pernah. Okay, so there's one student who actually gone through the interview tapi tak berjaya. So what we actually told the student is apa kekurangan dalam proposal tu, or what is the reason we tak luluskan pada waktu tu. Okay, so we allow the student to improve the proposal. So meaning to say that we do not just tak diluluskan. Okay, so we just keep the option still open. So we give room to the student a month or so for the student to improve the proposal, work on the comments by the panel. Once the student is ready, get back to us. We will arrange another interview for the student who have failed the initial admission interview too. So the second time around, the student actually got accepted for the PhD program. Okay. All right. So I think
Prof,
yes.
I have question. Macam for us civil engineering students, kita orang dekat final semester, but kita tangguh intern to this cuti semester. So our intern akan habis on October, but the results akan keluar on September if I'm not mistaken. And then untuk kita continue our study, semester akan start balik on October, right? So macam mana our intern tu kita consider dah habis or tidak, sebab intern kita still ongoing, akan habis on October. Early October. But kita dah semester akhir. Sebab fakulti hari tu kan bagi tangguh intern because of COVID.
Betul.
Yeah. So for our case macam mana, doktor?
Tapi intern tak ada markah kan? So which mean your marks,
Just,
your CGPA telah ada lah basically.
Yeah. Based on final results
Kan?
yang akan dapat on September. Cuma lulus gagal je lah.
Lulus gagal je intern tu. This one I have to check dengan IPSIS. Dr. Fazlina, do you have any idea on this? Sebab
Okay, regarding LI tu ke?
LI lambat habis. LI habis dalam around almost October, tapi our intake dah dia lambat sikit lah kalau boleh, tapi if we wait for the official surat, dia lambat sikit join lah.
Dia boleh, tapi sebab kita sebenarnya research ni dia throughout the semester sebenarnya, tapi cuma maybe lambat sedikit lah from
dia lambat sikit lah. Dia rugi sikit lah. So actually I forgot to inform yang for research registration ni, masters by course or PhD, it is open all year round. So cuma we usually suggest register together with the other students. If it's early October, then early October. But you can actually register anytime for masters by research ni. So if you do not mind that lambat sikit tu, 18 October kan, if you do not mind coming a little bit later from the original registration date tu, then I think it's fine.
So macam the possibility for us to continue this year after habis degree is possible lah.
Yeah, it's possible. Sebab yang tinggal intern je, your CGPA dah ada. So we can easily check that. Cuma you akan masuk lambat sikit lah. So you don't register with similar to other. I think it wouldn't be that long pun kan. So I think it's fine. Boleh je.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Prof?
Yes.
Saya ada soalan.
Yeah.
Regarding untuk requirement PhD punya publication. As you punya presentation tadi, is it that one macam dua publication, is it the minimal ataupun ada tak bagi case it depends to supervisor, it's beyond dua publication? Itu satu soalan. And the second question is how we can organize untuk coordinate the way kita requirement untuk publication ni, is it sufficient enough proof of submission to publication ataupun up to really publish? Pasal publication ni it may take some time juga kan. What the best option ataupun normally student coordinate untuk publication ni?
Okay, so I assume you're asking for PhD lah. Okay, so for PhD, minimum 2. Okay, so that's the requirement for you to submit the thesis. Cuma, yes, you're right. There are some supervisors who might require more than that lah. Okay, so but that is the basis of the supervisor. So that is how the supervisor supervises the student. But as a student, if you insist to submit because you have met the requirement of 2 publication, because as a guideline said so, you can do, cuma your application or your thesis submission still requires your supervisor's signature. So personally, I would advise the best is look into the supervisor, what's the requirement. If let's say the requirement of the supervisor 4, okay, and if you can't fulfill that, you like dah try dan tak boleh, just talk to the supervisor. Mention that you tak mampu and what's the reason for it. Okay, so you can't and you are constrained, you need to submit your thesis within that time frame. Okay, so you have maybe financial issues and so on. So because supervisors are human, so I think there is a little bit of flexibility there. So there are some supervisors that I know memang ada minimum that maybe they have, so they have the expectation of student. But if you can't and you have actually done the wajib too, you can talk to the supervisor. So for research program, your relationship with your supervisor is very important. It should be open, it should be transparent, you should be just telling the truth, just be honest. So we are still human, so there should be a leeway macam tu lah. Okay, so talk to the supervisor, but the minimum 2. Okay, and then on the acceptance of publication. Okay, so if you look into the requirement, if I'm not mistaken, 1 published. Okay, so I would foresee that actually when you start your PhD, within the first year, you can actually come up with a literature-based paper. Okay, and then the second year, you have another one from your primary data. So easily you can get 2. But at the PG office, we also accept if it is accepted. Okay, so submission, no, because it is still under review. The paper might be rejected. Okay, so there is a risk of rejection even though you have gone through several cycles of correction. So for us, we would accept it if there is acceptance by the publication. So acceptance is fine for us. Okay, so I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you. Soalan susulan juga Prof satu lagi. Kalau berkaitan dengan kes, is there any case itu IPSIS handle untuk change of supervisor due to unforeseen circumstances lah, tak sure sama ada dia left faculty ke left ataupun dia meninggal ke, macam mana kes-kes macam tu?
Untuk change of supervisor, you just need to send us fill in the supervisor change of supervisor form. Itu je. So Dr. Fazlina betul kan? So for changing of supervisor, they just need to fill up the form, provide us the reasoning. But there is a form juga untuk new supervisor. So your form tu dia ada old supervisor sign, okay? Agree untuk lepaskan student and new supervisor sign untuk acceptance of the new supervisor.
So meaning that in term of research works tu doesn't need to start over ataupun can be continue?
No, you have to be smart about finding your replacement supervisor tu. You have to make sure the replacement supervisor is happy with your current study and you can progress from where you have actually gone through. So janganlah cari supervisor yang nak change the entire study, rugilah. So find a supervisor that can accommodate and that can guide you towards completing whatever you have started. Don't start all over. That will be a waste of time semua benda tu.
Gitu.
Okay. Okay, do we have a list of potential supervisor based on their experience, expertise, so that student can choose relevant supervisor based on our research proposal? Ada? Okay, so every faculty, for civil specifically, we have the list of potential supervisor. Rosyayati ni from undergrad ke from masters ke mana so that we can actually share the list with you. Because I'm like thinking of an avenue to share. Maybe what we'll do, okay, so because we have shared this advertisement basically from the WhatsApp group, we will send back the PowerPoint. So we'll share with all of you the PowerPoint as well as the link to the potential supervisor. We'll collect it and make it as a link so that you'll be distributed to all of you. Okay, so we do have that actually. And you can also get back to the each of the school's website, so they should have the list of potential supervisors as well, and the expertise as well. Okay, so try to check on the website of the pengajian juga. Okay, all right. So I think it's a very interesting, good session as well as good questions by all of you. So I hope this sharing session would have given you some idea of how to go about and what are the things we can actually, you can actually do. Okay, you are in master's resource. Okay, I will share it in the coursework of the study too. Civil study itu. Okay, all right. Any other questions before we end the session? Okay, so all right. So if there are no other questions, I think we can end this very well. Thank you very much for your participation. So hope to see you around the postgrad studies in future. Okay. So
Thank you, Doctor.
thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you
Take care of
very
yourself.
much. Okay.
Okay, Anati, fast track interview. You need to submit the proposal report, not slide. You will present it in a slide, but you need to submit the proposal tu. So dalam bentuk proposal lah, proposal betul. Okay. Alright.